Hey guys, Brooklyn here again. I'm going to be talking about Eliza Rose by Lucy Worsley. Now this, for me, I read it and I finished it last night. I actually give it 4 out of 5 stars. For me, it's historical fiction, as you possibly could have guessed from the cover. It was written, I believe, it was first published in 2016, so it is actually relatively new, and I think it's coming out under a different title in the States soon, so stay tuned for that. Now this, as I was saying, was different for me because it's actually, as the cover might give away as well, it's sort of borderline young adult slash children's historical fiction, and so it was told from the perspective of a young girl. She was 12 years old and she dreams of going to the Tudor court and, meeting a husband that she would fall in love with. Who would he be? Would he be a duke or a stable boy? She wanted to find out. But nonetheless, as it often does, fate steps in and sort of throws her off course. So through this book we have her, just sort of growing and realizing that not everything is a fairy tale. And actually I admire Lucy Worsley for many reasons. I first saw her do one of her historical documentary type shows on the telly, and then when I heard she wrote this book I was really excited. But what she does in this book, which I haven't actually read in any historical fiction, is that she writes, she writes with the honesty. She doesn't sugarcoat the Tudor court. Eliza's aunt actually says how awful the Tudor court can be, and how they sort of just always have to put on this facade of how everything is perfect at court, when in fact it's not. Look, the Tudor court is a deadly place. You say something which is against the king or one of the past queens, and you could be executed for treason. It's a very dangerous place, as I said, and you constantly have to be on the lookout. Eliza Rose, as I said, she starts this novel as a 12-year-old girl, and by the end of it she's 20. So there was definitely a lot of growth to her character. At first she was definitely naive, but then she sort of, as she sort of came into growing up and stuff, she faced tragedies, and she literally was told by her own father that he wanted her to become the king's mistress. Of course, after all of that, it's her cousin, who is none other than Catherine Howard. For those of you that might know, Catherine Howard is the ill-fated 5th wife of Henry VIII. And I say ill-fated because in her time she was executed at the age of 20, although some sources say she was 18, 19, 20, I guess we'll never know, because she slept with one of the king's men. Yes, that is true. So of course, and I wondered as I would read this, and I got to know Catherine's character, and actually it's funny because I've read very little about Catherine Howard, so I'm thinking, alright, it's interesting, she was written as very sort of brash and rude, almost. She was very rude to Eliza, but then later in the book, although she would never admit it, she heavily relied on Eliza, as Eliza became one of her maids of honor, and had to serve her and everything. She was a real brat to Eliza, and she definitely took advantage of her serving girls, which I don't think is nice. Just comparing her to Catherine of Aragon, who really sort of saw her ladies in waiting as her close confidants and everything. But I guess Catherine lost most of her ladies in time from poverty and stuff, so that's probably why she held them close. But nonetheless, this, yes, was very interesting all throughout. I think the main reason why I sort of, didn't give it that 5-star rating is just because at some points it was just a bit juvenile, but at the same time it was great, and I didn't get sick of it at all. I just sort of, it just made me think of sort of that more, fuller adult you know, factor in, say, Philippa Gregory or Alison Weir's historical fiction. But at the same time, I hope, and I know Lucy Worsley's written another children's historical fiction book, but I hope she actually writes more historical fiction, but maybe more young adult or adult historical fiction. And I know she's written quite a few non-fiction historical books too. But yes, this was really interesting, and I was shocked, you know, I laughed, I felt sort of sentimental for her. It was really interesting. Yeah, so the supporting characters, Eliza had a close friend, and she was sweet, you know, she was just, I think, your typical sort of quiet lady in waiting. Also, Eliza's father, I felt sorry for him because he'd lost his wife, Eliza's mum, and you could tell that he really sort of was still mourning for her death. And I think because Eliza was like the only girl in the family, you know, the fate of her family elevating at court was, you know, rested on Eliza's shoulders, which is something a 12-year-old girl shouldn't have to face, because her sort of making the family rise up high was definitely hinted from the very early stage of the book. And that's why after her initial betrothal fell through, because the guy was already married, can you believe, to a little country girl who didn't want anything to do with him anymore, go figure, because of Eliza was involved in all of that, and because that was seen as such a scandal, Eliza had to go to her cousins, Catherine Howard's, and, you know, learn how to be educated as a proper girl. And then she went to court, met Henry VIII. Henry VIII sort of floated towards her, and once again I have been very much like repulsed by how accurate I feel Henry VIII was portrayed, you know, especially in his later years after his 5th marriage, you know. He just becomes this big fat slobbering thing, you know. It's just very, very unsettling. So yes, anyway, that concludes my book talk on Eliza Rose. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Feel free to drop any comments below, and yeah, let me know what you think of this book if you've read it.